Good morning. We'll start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll jump right into it. As I understand, we have some business people up here that need to get to business. All right. Okay. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve, and I think we can do it together. The minutes of June 6th and the minutes of July 11th. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Mr. Neal,
Warren, second.
Mr. Bourne is the second. Are there any corrections, comments, questions? Okay, we will call for the question and we'll do roll call. Mr. Bourne?
Warren, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
Good, yes.
Gamalki, yes.
Perry, yes.
Mijares, yes.
Neil, yes.
Weatherford, yes.
All right. Okay, public comment on items not on the agenda. Anyone in the public at home or here that want to make a comment?
We only have one person online and hand is not up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for monitoring that. Okay, new business. We're going to get a Todd update from Mr. Weaver.
Unfinished business.
Oh,
It's not.
I'm sorry, unfinished business.
We don't have it on the agenda, but we have not finished the discussion on moving the meeting to 5:30 p.m. We were waiting to find out from the city if the conflict.
No, we did decide that.
We
We decided to stay in, yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, now, Mr. Weaver, you can sit there, get that blood circulating.
Good morning, everybody. Quick update on how things are progressing. We are moving along inch by inch, getting things done. We just got the traffic study completed last week, which is great to have. It took about 2 months to get it, almost 3 months to get it. But we have that completed. It's in draft form. So we're just going to review it, ask questions, get some clarification on things, and then we'll have that ready to submit to the city when we do our major subdivision plat submittal. So that submittal should come by the end of this week.
Okay,
Just quick correction, preliminary plats.
Preliminary plat, that's correct.
yeah, because there's two processes,
Preliminary and final.
three that you still need to go through with the city.
We've gone through one, this is our second.
That's right. Thank you, David. Yes. So by the end of this week, we should have that in. The V-Cup draft, we have worked a lot on that document. We've gotten a lot of good discussion, input, clarification on that document. It is 95% done, I would say. Derek and I would say. So once that's completed, we'll agree to it. We'll send it money to submit it to the CDPHE, and we'll be off and running with that plan and that MMP. So that, I just can't imagine that's going to go on much more than another week or two. And then one comment I just want to tell everybody is all these things are taking a lot of time. I don't know if y'all are experiencing it in your businesses, but getting things done quickly is just not an option these days. So apologize for how long it's taking, but we are moving forward.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is that when he refers to the V-Cup, that's the environmental that was done by Matrix. And as DDA chair, I listened in, I didn't speak to 2 meetings with the person from the state environmental office.
Yeah, Fonda.
Fonda, yeah. My assessment is he seems to be working to be reasonable. Is that fair?
You bet.
Okay.
It's been great. to work with.
So, but it is quite a process to observe and watch, and there's a lot of nuances to that report. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that since the report was done in 2008, the actual numbers have gotten better. So the issue has diminished. However, the regulatory environment has changed since 2008, so the standards are higher. So even though it's better than it was in 2008, which we had hoped for, most people expected, there's still challenges to overcome that Todd will have to deal with. Is that fair?
That's correct. Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Great.
Any questions?
Wow, no, good report.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Mr. Weaver. All right, and we have a presentation from the Forge. We have Brian Johnson, it looks like, representing a small but group that enthusiastic group, I would describe it.
Well put. Again, my name is Brian Johnson, Forge Climbing LLC. We have a brief presentation. With the chair's permission, we can jump right in.
Yeah.
So what is the Forge? The Forge is a group of like-minded people with a vast array of skill sets, both in climbing and professionally, that seek to establish an indoor rock climbing facility in Woodland Park. This indoor rock climbing facility would combine elements of climbing to fuel self-confidence, spark inner potential, and ignite a sense of adventure by providing a venue to enjoy an athletic activity in a safe and controlled environment. Additionally, some other benefits. If we can do this, it would create an opportunity for the potential to form youth climbing teams, which would be fantastic. Another sport for our children, and allow us to have a place to potentially offer educational opportunities, such as Gym to Crag, which is taking folks from indoor rock climbing, transitioning them into outdoor rock climbing, teaching them about ethics and how to do it safely. Thank you. For those of you who aren't familiar with indoor rock climbing facilities, here is a picture of the Springs Climbing Center. It's the oldest one in the Pikes Peak region. You can kind of see all the different hanging poles arranged on the wall. The colors, the tape signifies different routes of different difficulty. So for those of you that haven't never been to climbing gym, I thought that would be useful just to kind of get a visual of what it might look like sitting inside a climbing gym. Next slide, please. Thank you. So why are we here? The Forge has acquired a distressed property to try and build its indoor climbing facility, and wanted to make a brief introduction, as we will most likely be seeking to enter into a redevelopment and reimbursement agreement with this board to receive tax increment financing to help offset certain costs of revitalizing the property. I think it's really important to work with boards early on if we're going to pursue such an agreement, so that it's a smooth and streamlined process. If you go to the next slide, please. Here's an aerial view of the property. 530 Chester Avenue. It's 0.51 acres and currently zoned CBD. This is a use by right within that zone. And for those of you that have been up here for a long time and know that property, it's been pretty much abandoned for possibly decades. The next slide is just kind of the boundary map, and it showed where our property is located. So we are within the boundary. Next slide, please. Here's a street view. I think that meets the definition of a blighted or distressed property. It's seen better days. The driving surface is not great. And then so we're going to move on to some preliminary floor plans, please. So here's a preliminary floor plan. You can see we're planning to redo all the asphalt, probably redo some landscaping. But on the next slide, please, that will give you a better idea. And this is just a rough conceptual design, but this will give you a better idea of the direction we're going to go from an architectural standpoint. Obviously, this doesn't make Woodland Park's criteria as of yet, but we are working towards that. So just to give you guys kind of an idea of where we're heading. Next slide, please. So where are we at in the development process? We've completed our first SMART meeting with the city of Woodland Park. We're currently working with our professionals to finalize design and make our initial submittals to the city. Currently, we anticipate breaking ground next spring because the building season is pretty much over. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, just kind of want to give you guys this brief introduction.
Yeah, so for disclosure, probably a month-ish ago, I did meet with, I think 4 of the board members just to have a very general discussion. And basically, they were just inquiring about kind of what is this TIF kind of process. I think I sent them the work that Mr. Bourne and Ms. Carrick had done previously with respect to the TIF application, if you will. And I guess I want to reiterate, I think I said at that meeting that we just did a TIF deal with AJ's Pizza. And that was a weird one in the sense that we did it pretty much after they were done. So we very much appreciate your coming here early in the process. And that particular agreement focused on reimbursement of public improvements, which I think you're probably going to have quite a few of. So I suspect that's probably your best target for reimbursement funds. But once you have your budget, that's something where you could come back and work with us. And if the board has an appetite for it, we could sit and hammer out those details ahead of time. It will be nice to kind of do it in the proper order. So thank you for that.
Yep, thank you.
How many people are in your ownership group, if you don't mind me asking?
A lot. I think there's about 10.
Yeah, and a lot of local business owners, dads who wanted to have something for their kids to do that was healthy, correct?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's nice that we have a wide range of people, not only professional, but industry specific. So that's gonna help us out a whole bunch.
Yeah, my read of meeting some of the folks is that not only do you have some people who understand that particular business, but you also have in your group people with quite a high business acumen, which is nice to see. So
Awesome, thank you.
yes, Jerry.
Just curious, are you gonna leave the building as is? I just finished off the facade or something.
No part of the building is unsalvageable and it will need to be torn down completely.
Gotcha.
A little bit larger footprint, but not by much, for the section we have to take down.
Well, another thing is there's long been rumored, and this town is just all about rumors, but that there were issues underground in that parking lot. Are you aware of that or?
I am not.
Yeah, it had been, previous owners had some issues with the city, as I recall, about fixing that, something that needs to be addressed. I just pointed out in case you might want to research.
With respect to the drainage, possibly.
Yeah, it was something that actually held up a development once.
Karen, would that be Steve Johnson? Just kind of, because I know they owned it forever, his family.
You know, I would be lying if I said I knew.
Well, it'd just be, so my disclosures, I'm working with this group as the civil engineer. And so that's something I'd be interested in digging into. And I know
We're just continuing the rumor on. Is what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll talk to Steve and see if I can ferret anything out.
Thank you.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think when Mr. Taylor put in the car wash, he did a massive amount of infrastructure catty corner from there, which that may have really solved the issue downstream. So yeah, I'm curious.
I mean, I'm pretty aware of the drainage issues on site, and they're more of a floodplain variety
Gotcha.
than anything settling, but it'd be interesting to see if I can find out anything else that happened.
Well, we'll see about the rumors, but I'm sure you'll dial it in. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Johnson? I think on its face, you know, obviously this board has to look at what you're doing and look and see what makes sense and, that I don't perceive that there's anyone on the board that would be against this moving forward or having discussions with you about a TIF deal. But I think it's great because I agree we do need more things for our youth that's healthy for them to be doing. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, wow, we're gonna have another quick meeting, which is awesome. Okay, board chair report, just have a few things to report. I've already mentioned the meeting with the board's group. And again, it was just a high level general discussion about process, nothing else. I did participate in 2 meetings with the state of Colorado regarding the VCUP, with a lot of stakeholders involved there. And I won't even pretend to understand all the technical things they were talking about. But I did perceive that Mr. Fonda from the state was being very, working very hard to listen and to do his job, but also be reasonable. So that was really nice to hear. The third thing, we talked about getting data from Vector Bank. We don't have it yet on the second loan, because I still would like to bring to this board the idea that we pay the second loan off, potentially yet this year. But don't have that payoff statement. And more importantly, don't have confirmation that there's no prepayment penalty, because obviously we don't want to trigger any weird prepayment penalty. Fourth, and we'll get to this, well, actually, we'll get to it in the budget discussion under treasurer's report. But fourth then is with regards to the COG rail car. There was a lot of stuff in the press, and my position still is that I've been going through DDA meetings and minutes for the last 2.5 years. I've been going through city council meetings and minutes for the last 2.5 years, trying to piece together kind of chronology and all the pertinent information around the COG. It's some of it, it's not very clear. It's not very easy to call out, but I'm working, and I'm also footnoting. So when I bring the report, it'll be footnoted so that you can put it back to the actual source document, so that there's very clear delineation of what happened or what we think happened. Again, my position with the Fogger family, their father passed away in December, and so I give them a lot of grace. I think early on they reacted emotionally to the COG potentially being moved, and so my position has been to allow them grace to hopefully get better data. They do have an attorney engaged, trying to help them figure stuff out. Give them some time. Kava's not in a rush. They want to get it moved at some point sooner than later, obviously before breaking ground, but and it's a liability sitting on their property, but wanted to give them some grace. But a couple of things I haven't been able to find. One is I do have a document that is signed by Mayor LeVar and Miss Larson from the DDA that basically accepts ownership for the city and UPHS. But the third party to that, the board president for UPHS, her signature is missing, and she's looking for the document where she signed it. So I don't have a fully executed document of that on the record or otherwise, but I do have a copy, so it's clear there was intent there. And the only thing I heard from UPHS is that they were very skittish about accepting anything because, and I'll put it out there, I think if you go over to the museum there, they do an awesome job over there, all those volunteers, but they have zero budget. And so somehow, some way as a community, we need to help them find some funds for operations. And so maybe this process will help shed some light on their operations and what great value they bring to the community. As a matter of fact, I think it's a kind of a hidden gem that we should be directing the tourists to too, because it is pretty interesting. And a lot of local people have written books on the local history. So that said, they were very skittish about accepting anything because they're like, they can't afford to even take care of anything. So so I suspect that they were just skittish, and we'll get that on. But the other statement that was made by the Carters was that their dad had done an agreement with the city that the COG would never be moved. And I find zero evidence of that anywhere in the record so far. And in fact, going back to previous DDA members, previous council members, it's clear on the record that there was always the caveat, someday we're going to sell this property and we will have to move it, but someday. Well, that day's here. And so we do have to figure this out. I suspect that the children of Mr. Carter, I was telling Mr. No Slight to our city council, but the Carters, they accused me of lying. Basically last fall, if you recall a meeting where I basically said, I'm going to reach out to the Carters. So I went to the office. There were two ladies in there. I got Mr. Carter's phone number. I think it was September-ish. I called, left 2 messages because I wanted to let them know what was happening, that we were working with the Taiva Group and we were intent on selling the property. Never heard anything back, but didn't really follow through. Unfortunately, Mr. Carter passed away in December, and I was accused of lying that I never called them, and that's just not true. But I suspect they didn't really know, or they've never heard the message or whatever. It doesn't matter. But why I'm saying this is that I think the Carters were just not plugged into what's been happening up here. So they weren't paying attention to the DDA meetings and this role over the last 1.5 years, 2 years with the Taiva Group. They actually accused me or claimed that I was on city council, and I told Mr. Neal that called me a liar. I've never been called a liar before, but that didn't bother me. But being called a city council person, that was pretty tough. But anyway, so our position is to give the Carters grace to further get good information, to get relevant information. Hopefully this report will be as thorough as we can make it. I think more and more our public access to information is improving with systems, but it's not very easy to find things. You have to methodically go through it. And I kind of have a job, which that's okay, but really, taking away my grandkid time, I gotta find the balance there. So we'll get that report done. We'll eventually, hopefully, have a conversation with the Carters. They refuse to talk in person. They want to do it through attorneys. And so it'll play out okay, because I'm pretty confident that once they find the information, they'll be reasonable. And we've made it very clear that we want to continue honoring their mom through that memorial on the COG. We have every intention of doing that. I think personally as the chair, but also this board has been very clear on that. So any questions or comments? Okay. I think that's it for me. Mr. Treasurer, first gig.
Yeah, morning. Once again, appreciate you guys telling me I was gonna do this and then I volunteered for it. Yeah. We only have 2 items to go over. First one, legal expenses that we paid in the amount of $687.50. And then the second one is for admin expenses, and that was $200 even. So those are paid and taken care of this month. So currently, right now, we are at $761,683.74. Our fees to get paid the money, about 3% at $22,850.50. That's really about it. That's where we stand.
Yeah, so I entertain a motion to ratify the expenses.
Bourne would move to ratify those expenses and pay the bills.
Mr. Bourne,
I'll second.
Mr. Maharis. We'll do the roll call vote, please, Mr. Bourne.
Bourne, yes.
Cabrera, yes.
Good, yes.
Gamelki, yes.
Perry, yes.
Mijares, yes.
Neil, yes.
Weatherford, yes.
Okay, so the final piece, it was, our acting city manager, is that your official title? And our finance director, so he's doing double duty, triple duty probably. Got us the end of August, actuals to budget report. Friday night, so I didn't get into the packet. I will add it to the online packet, make sure it's on the record. But basically what you'll see in the middle of the page there, percent received and spent, we're 53% to budget year to date. And that's primarily because we haven't received, in my opinion, the TIF reimbursement request yet for this year. We have a Trail Ridge that I'm aware of, and another one I can't think of that I've gently reached out to say, hey, are you going to submit these? Because I see those as contingent liabilities. We should take care of them this year. And so we're going to kind of push them to hopefully do what they need to do. If they don't want us to, that'd be fine too, but we would get a letter stating that. But I suspect that's not what's the case. The one thing I do want to point out that if we look at legal services, we're pushing up against our budget of 25,000 for the year. I suspect we're going to need to increase that budget for 2023. And I think the process is we would have to go back to city council with a formal request to approve it up to 28,000 or whatever. So I think we'll get with our attorney, Mr. McCaskill, and kind of anticipating what we might work on by the end of the year, see what's a reasonable amount to increase it. And probably we'll bring that to you here in October with the amount, and then we'll put the process in place to formally get it approved by the council. Is that everyone's understanding? Yeah.
And since we do have a budget workshop this coming Thursday, I will bring up this point to the.
Just have to know we're going to need a tad more.
Yep.
The good news is that we're in line with budget, and there's other line items where we haven't expended, so we're not. We're being very frugal. We're being very careful with the monies, obviously, but we have to increase that line item. I think that's it. Are there any questions on the budget? Is there any aversion to pay it off the second if we confirm that we can? I want to make sure that there's no, if I do, good. Well, we should have that in October too. So we'll try to get that to you ahead of time so that you can contemplate it, and we can hopefully make a decision 1st of October. Are there any other board member reports? Anything that any board members want to report on?
Bourne has nothing additional.
Cabrera has nothing.
You know, for change, I got nothing.
Haven't had enough coffee this morning. Mr. Gamelki.
I have nothing.
Mihalis, nothing.
Neil, nothing.
Wow, that may be a first. Okay, I don't think Mr. McCaskill is on the line. I am aware through email threads in the last couple of weeks. He has been working directly with AJ's Pizza on getting the TIF deal signed with them. Remember that once they go through their first year and actually pay their first set of taxes, that's when they're eligible for TIF reimbursement. I do want to make sure we're on the same page that, because I communicated to, we haven't signed the deal yet, because if you recall, our intent was to any TIF deal that this group did, that it would not include the funds to Netco. So that any TIF deal, those funds would go back to Netco pending approval of the other districts, which Chief Lambert and I, and maybe one of you, will attempt to get that done. But we had asked Mr. McCaskill to contemplate how that, or if it affects the agreement, how that would be communicated in the agreement, and haven't heard back on that. So we'll update you on that, I suspect, in October as well. So is my understanding correct, that our intent was that we had a desire to protect the Netco funds? Yeah, okay.
And that'll be our mode moving forward for
Yeah.
future TIF deals.
Well, yeah, that's, we had decided that before AJ's, but
Correct.
somehow we lost in translation with the attorney, so we'll get that dialed in, and then Tyler, we're ready. You know, summer season is always tougher for the fire department, so we'll go out and hit the other districts and make sure that they have no problem, so. Okay, good, I just want to make sure I wasn't going crazy and remembering something wrong. So with that being said, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
Bourne moves to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
That's shorter than the money.
And Ms. Hill, I do have a